be moderating this session. So I welcome you all in this web series on, it's a webinar series on rethinking Northeast politics, a discussion on evolving economic and socio-political dynamics, which is being organized by the Indian Research Scholars Association. So today with us, we have our session chair, Professor Alpana Borgohain. Ma'am, she is the professor and head in the Department of Women's Studies, Guwahati University, and she's also a former professor and head in the Department of Political Science, Dibrugarh University. And with us, we have a session co-chair, Professor Swati Akshay Sachdeva, and she is a professor and former head of the Department of Sociology, Sikkim University. And with us, we have our speakers. First, the keynote speaker, Professor Rosemary Dzuvichu, who's a director in the Center for Peace and Gender Studies, Kohima, Nagaland, who will be speaking on the dynamics of gender justice in the Northeast region. Our second speaker is Professor Streamlet. Sorry for the mispronunciation in any of the names. I really apologize for that. So our second speaker is Professor Streamlet Dkhar, professor at Khasi University, Northeastern Hill University, Shillong, Meghalaya, and she'll be speaking on folklore, culture, and ecopolitics, a paradigm shift in Northeast India's political dynamics. And our next speaker is Professor Giribabu, Professor and Head of the Economics Department, Central University of Mizoram, who will be speaking on Viksit Bharat at 2047 through entrepreneurship, development, and gender issues, with special reference to Northeast region. And our another speaker, Dr. Session Bharat, who's an assistant professor in the Department of Political Science, Assam Women's University. And she'll be speaking on women and identity in the Northeast India, a normative understanding. And our last speaker is Dr. Lincoln Riang, who's an associate professor in the Department of History, Central University of Tripura, who will be speaking on a socio-cultural history of the tribes of Tripura. So these are the names of our speakers for today. And from here, I'll hand over the session to our chair, Professor Alpana, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Manorama. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yes. You're audible.
Good evening, everyone, in this particular platform. Respected co-chair of the session, Professor Swati Akshay Sachdeva. Namaste. Respected keynote speaker, Professor Rosemary Dzuvichu. Esteemed resource person, Streamlet Dkhar, Professor Streamlet Dkhar, Dr. Session Bharat, Professor Giribabu, and Lincoln Riang. It is indeed an opportunity to be here in this particular platform, sharing our ideas with very young research scholars of India. And I am thankful to the president of the Indian Research Scholars Association, Vikas Kumar, who connected me, who invited me, and gave me this opportunity to get connected with everyone here. Now, the theme of this particular webinar series is Rethinking Northeast Politics, a discussion on evolving economic and socio-political dynamics. I'll be speaking to you from my location at Guwahati University, Northeast India. And being an insider, we are all aware that this Northeast India consists of 8 states, 7 sister states, and 1 brother, a very new brother. Sikkim is also a part of us. And this particular region is located in the far east of India, and it has a very long international border, sharing its border with other countries such as Nepal, Bhutan, Tibet, China, Myanmar, Bangladesh. And it is only with a very small chicken neck, a small little land corridor that connects Northeast India with mainland India. It is another geopolitical significance of Northeast India is that it serves as a connecting point between mainland India and East Asia and Southeast Asia. The Northeast India, the population here is predominantly tribal, and more than 200 tribes coexist here together through politics of conflict and politics of coexistence and cooperation. The politics of Northeast India is centered around certain key issues such as identity politics, autonomy, politics of development, migration, and security. The politics here is centered around group rights of ethnic communities for the preservation of their cultural identity and distinctiveness. Politics is based on political mobilization for autonomy. So, we all throughout the history of the politics in Northeast India, you will find ethnic communities organizing for autonomous status. Politics, the historical legacy of this kind of political mobilization centered around autonomy in Northeast India is primarily based on the argument for differentiated citizenship. And there is this historical legacy of differentiated citizenship to cater to the different needs and interests of the different communities living here in this particular region. And that is why we have certain constitutional and legal provisions like the inner line, the sixth schedule. We have got, territorial autonomous council. We also have non-territorial autonomous councils and so on. But then since this particular session relates to gender, right? So in the midst of this kind of politics for group rights and cultural rights, the main question here is what happens to the rights of gender minorities? What happens to the rights of gender, specifically to women's rights? Right? This is the key issue and the key concern. At the same time, when there is so much emphasis on cultural identity and distinctiveness, definitely, the customary laws becomes very important for the preservation of this culture. So, when personal rights and freedoms are guided by customary laws, what happens to women's rights and gender justice? I believe, the speakers here will deal with these issues. Another key issue of politics in Northeast India for the young research scholars who are here in this particular platform, it also relates to migration. And the people of this particular land who consider themselves as the sons of the soil, we have in Assamese a term known as Khilonjia, which means indigenous, right? So the entire citizenship discourse here is centered around who are the sons of the soil, the Khilonjias, and who are the outsiders. The citizenship circulates around inclusiveness and exclusiveness, the us and them, we and the others. So, in the midst of all this, you have to ask yourself, what happens to gender? Because this kind of politics, to a large extent, also ends up in inter-ethnic conflict and intra-ethnic conflict. And the rights of the marginalized genders very frequently gets affected. The politics of development of the region, right, all throughout a very long period of time was that of underdevelopment. And the Northeast region felt neglected. They considered this as the stepmotherly attitude of mainstream India, and if there is a strong sense of alienation. However, now, with the change in the political dispensation, there seems to be a focus on development of Northeast India. But the development of Northeast India so far, it has been primarily on infrastructure development. And the ecosystem has been built for industrialization. Today, that is 26th of February, a huge gathering is going on here. We had the prime ministers yesterday. We had many ministers coming to Assam and Guwahati. And a lot of things are happening just next to me, my residence at Guwahati. So, is this an advantage for the people of Assam, or is this an advantage for only big capital? It is only time that will say. So we are waiting here and watching, right, the pace of or the course of the politics of development that will follow in the future. We should not forget that, today there's a lot of emphasis on try to become Atmanirbhar and try to become an employer and employ and give jobs for others. Be a job creator. So I think there's a paper here on job creation. Since the jobs are less with a huge population on the rise in India, unemployment is high. So definitely India can progress and develop and achieve Viksit Bharat by 2047 only when many of our youth take on to the path of entrepreneurship or Atmanirbharata. Security is another key issue, considering the fact that where Northeast India is located, and there is a lot of drug, and then there are drug peddlers. Then there is a lot of trafficking. So in the midst of all this, right, our key concern will be what will happen to the rights of the marginalized genders. Now, for the researchers, that is the research scholars, you need to understand that, when you refer to the category of women, or for that matter, any gender, right, it is about multiplicity, diversity, and plurality. As men, we are not one. As women, either we are not one. Even the non-binaries are not one. We need to respect the diversities, the pluralities, the multiplicities, and the political system, the social system must facilitate, these diversities to coexist. We need to move on to a politics of cooperation, politics of coexistence in place of politics of conflict, hatred, and intolerance. I would like to emphasize that to do any kind of research on the basis of gender in Northeast India, you will definitely have to take up the intersectional, theoretical framework, because it is at the intersections of the multiple identities through which we, to which we belong and grow, that there are certain sections of people feel liberated and are powerful, and some other sections lose out. They become, voiceless and they are being suppressed. So it is these intersectionalities of our identities that we need to focus on. At the same time, we need to understand that women in Northeast India and other marginalized genders in Northeast India are not merely victims. They are capable of agency, they are capable of, bringing about change and transformation of their own lived realities and the larger realities of the societies of Northeast India and beyond. So, with these few words, I would like to, uh, you know, uh, conclude my introductory remarks. And I look forward to all the speakers in this particular session. I think we have got 6 speakers, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
60.
So Vikash Kumar has to take over, or Manurama has to take over, right? How you have planned the session.
Ma'am, it's depend on you, ma'am. You will moderate and you will.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So
And Professor Swati, ma'am, is also here. So you can.
since I have with me my co-chair,
Yes, ma'am.
Professor Swati, Akshay, Sachdeva, I would like
Yes,
to
ma'am.
request you to, deliver your, speech.
Uh, and with the permission of the chair, I would like to invite our keynote speaker, Professor Rosemary Dzuvichu. She is Director, Center for Peace and Gender Studies, Kohima, Nagaland. And the topic ma'am would be talking on is the dynamics of gender justice in the Northeast region. Over to you, ma'am.
So, sorry, ma'am. I have informed to Professor Alpana, ma'am. Rosemary, ma'am, will deliver her talk in the next day. So, Professor Stream, ma'am, will deliver keynote address.
Uh, Vikas sir, I would request because I'm actually not in the loop really. So I'll request if you could, just take over and maybe just send me a message so that,
Yes,
I
only
actually.
Rosemary, ma'am, has not other speakers.
Okay, sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sure, sir. Okay. So sorry for the inconvenience. Now I invite Professor Streamlet Dkhar, professor at the Khasi Department, Northeast Hill University, Shillong, and ma'am would be talking on folklore, culture, and ecopolitics, a paradigm shift in the Northeast India's political dynamics. Ray, looking forward to your lecture, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yes, very good evening, Swati, Akshay, and thank you to Vikash Kumar for inviting me to this session. Alpana, Professor Alpana, my friend, you still remember me. I think we have met quite a number of times, and now we have other uh, speakers also. So Professor Giribabu and Dr. Shaista Barwa, Dr. Lincoln Rian, Papi Halder, PhD scholar, and the moderators Manorama and Ganesh. So, in fact, I'm in the midst of very tension because in fact I had already reclined to Vikas that I'll not be able to be in this program because we are also having at the same time the international conference in our university. But nevertheless, since the time is in the evening, I'm able to do something at least to be at your midst. As it has already been spelled out, my topic will be folklore, culture, and eco-politics, a paradigm shift in Northeast India's political dynamics. So, okay, I didn't prepare my slides. I thought I will just talk. So I think I will be able to to reach you by talking only. So when we talk about folklore, culture, and eco-politics, we understand that we also talk about the people of the region. And when we talk of Northeast India, a region known for its cultural diversity and rich ecological landscape has, witnessed a transformation in its political dynamics through the intersections of folklore, cultural identity, and eco-politics. So, as traditional narratives shaped eco-political movements, environmental concerns have become central to governance, influencing policy decisions, indigenous rights, and sustainable development. So, I would like to just explore how folklore and culture are intertwined with eco-political shifts, making a new phase in Northeast India's political landscape. So I'll just take first, the role of folklore in political consciousness, because uh, myself being a teacher of literature, and also we have dealt a lot with folklore. I would like to concentrate more on these issues that we are facing. Okay, from the oral tradition now to the written tradition. So folklore in the Northeast India is not just a collection of myths or legends or folk tales, but it is a living tradition that continues to shape social consciousness. We talk of oral traditions, we talk of songs, we talk of ritualistic performances. We know that all these serve as powerful tools for community mobilization. So I'll just give a few examples, especially from my community, Khasi community. So, for instance, Khasi folk tales emphasize the sanctity of nature and community solidarity, reinforcing indigenous claim to lands and resources. So now, Rosemary is there or not, I don't know. But then when we talk about the Au Naga also, traditions of storytelling preserves historical grievances and aspirations, influencing contemporary political movements. So these narratives, become the foundation for resistance against external encroachments and play a crucial role in identity politics. So now let us talk about cultural identity and political mobilization. So when we talk of always been a defining factor in Northeast India's political struggles and ethnic uniqueness. It has led to movements advocating for greater autonomy, indigenous rights, and self-governance. And the revival of these, traditional attire, festivals, language in public spaces, it signals a resurgence of indigenous people, often translating into political agency. So, for example, I would say that the demand for recognition of local languages in offshore administration and educational system stems from a deeper cultural political consciousness that folklore and traditional narratives reinforce. Why I'm saying this? Because when we come to Northeast, we understand that especially when we talk about the scheduled languages, in Northeast we have Assamese language, and then we have Manipuri, Meteilon, the Manipuri language, and Bodo language. The three languages only from the Northeast which have been included in the eight schedules of the Constitution of India. So now when we come to other, tribal languages, other minor languages, we do have, a struggle. I would say a struggle, because when we talk of in the case of for the Khasi, we have been struggling for more than 45 years, to get our language included in the eighth schedule of the Constitution of India. But still now, it has never happened. So also, I believe for other languages of Northeast, with the exception of the three. So when we come to the eco-political and indigenous governance, we understand that the regions, we are talking about vast forests, we're talking about rivers, we're talking about biodiversities. All these, have made eco-politics a crucial aspects of the governance. Indigenous communities have long practiced sustainability, and when we talk especially for the environmental management through sacred groves, I will again cite example of Meghalaya. The Meghalaya has a number of sacred groves. The land system in Khasi, in particular, is very, very meaningful for conservation of the environment. So the traditional knowledge of the forefathers was so deep that even without the formal education of the people, they would understand the law of nature, keeping the forests called the sacred groves. We have here in Shillong, the outskirts of Shillong, of course, Hilau Kentang, the sacred forests at Mauklang, and we do have at Ribhoi and Giant Hills. These sacred forests were very, very significant. So people are allowed to enter inside the forest and eat any edible vegetation inside, but they can never, never take it outside the forest. There are restrictions, and it should be strictly followed inside the sacred forest, failing which any forest resources found in the sacred groves or the Laukuntang, where the indigenous knowledge of the forefathers to have these sacred groves further benefits the land for water management and definitely make the nearby areas, to have sufficient water, identification of catchment areas for storage of water, and with the modern technology using the purifier to make the water supply and fit for drinking. So such sacred forests in the Meghalaya and even in Manipur are repositories of high value medicinal plants. Now, when I can cite some other example from Assam, the Dimasa community of Assam also called them the Dkhars. However, these modern development projects, including hydroelectrical dams and mining, have led to ecological conflicts, prompting political resistance. So the Chipko style protests in Meghalaya and Arunachal Pradesh against deforestation and large scale industrial projects highlights the intersection of indigenous ecological wisdom and contemporary environment activism. So now, other land management also practices are still prevalent, having the land genius systems. I'll cite again in the case of Khasi, we do have cloud, right? That means forests that are meant for the cluster villages, Clow Adam prohibited forests, and then we have Clow Snong, the local forest, and Clow Kodaklan forest. And these are all different from the Rekinti that belongs to the individual, the forest that belong to individual. So the indigenous people of Northeast practice of shifting cultivation also, use of crops, rotation, and seed preservation and other organic fertilizers. But there have been the significant paradigm shift in the agriculture practices of indigenous communities in the Northeast India. While shifting cultivation, also called the Jhum in many states, continues in some areas, several changes have emerged due to environmental concern, government policies, and socio-economic transformation. So now we are talking about the shifts. Key shifts in agriculture practices. We understand that it has reduced dependence on shifting cultivation due to deforestation, soil degradation, and climate change. And many indigenous farmers are shifting towards agroforestry, terrace farming, and settled agriculture. So government policies discourage Jhum through incentives for alternative livelihoods. So when we come to the integration of modern techniques with traditional practices, We understand that farmers now combine tradition, um, um, okay, let me say, traditional seed and preservation methods with scientific hybridization, they call it, for better yields. So use of improved irrigation for techniques or what we call this drip irrigation, rainwater harvesting. So these are now, the paradigm shifts that we are seeing with regards to agriculture. So we have also the diversification of crops. Earlier, shifting cultivation focus on staple crops like rice, millet, and maize. But now there is a shift towards horticulture, medicinal plants, and high-value crops like turmeric, ginger, and oranges. Turmeric, ginger, and oranges are very, very famous, crops in Northeast India. So when we come to organic and sustainable farming, let me just give you some example. Many indigenous farmers still use natural compost and manure, and our brother state Sikkim became India first fully organic state, and other northeast states are also promoting organic farming, but then now we are on the go. Translation, traditional crop rotation continues, but with scientific soil testing to determine the best crop cycle. So these are, intervening about what we should do. I mean, especially for the sustainable farming, the organic ones. So now, when we come to, market oriented when we come to market oriented agriculture, we understand that earlier farming was primarily for subsistence, but today there is a shift towards commercialization. So indigenous farmers are participating in farmer producer organization. We call it FPOs, selling organic produce to national and international market. So we also have to talk about the technology adoption. Mobile apps and digital platforms help farmers access market prices, weather forecasts, and trainings. Drones and IoT-based sensors are being introduced for precision farming in some regions. So now we do have the challenges I'm concerned when we talk about, especially the land, or especially the agriculture I have just said. When we come to land alienation, many indigenous farmers are losing ancestral lands to infrastructure projects such as, in Assam, we do have tea plantations and corporate farmings. So climate change, we were talking also about erratic rainfall and rising temperature affect traditional cropping cycles. So we do have these policy conflicts. When we talk of policy conflicts, I mean to mention about some of the government policies that push for settled farming without considering the local ecological knowledge. So, having said all these, I would say that while the indigenous farmers in Northeast India still uphold traditional wisdom in seed preservation, organic farming, and sustainable practices, they are adapting to modern innovations. So the key is to ensure that these transitions do not erase indigenous knowledge, but rather integrate it with new age sustainable agriculture. So the key challenges of bad customary laws, Alpana has just mentioned about customary laws in Northeast. So conflicts with constitutional and national laws is very much there. I'm talking this from the perspective of even of our Meghalaya. So legal pluralism. When we talk of legal pluralism, we understand that customary laws differ from state and central laws in areas such as ownership, inheritance, and criminal justice. It really affects the like I would rather say that there is always been a conflict between these laws. So versus customary practices. So, in many tribal customary laws, favor patriarchy, restricting women's lands rights and inheritance. This clashes with constitutional equality laws like Article 14, 15, and 21. So, like in our Khasi society, we do have a customary practice where the youngest daughter will be the custodian of the ancestral property. But then, there are some paradigm shifts these days also where even the daughters of the youngest daughters would not like not to have the property, but not to take the responsibility of the of the family, of the parents, of the grandparents, and the unmarried brothers and sisters. So again, when we talk about the national laws and the conflict of the constitutional law, we do have also limited jurisdictions of courts. Many customary disputes are settled by village councils or traditional courts, often outside the purview of the national courts. This sometimes leads to denial of fair trials because one court, I'm talking about the village courts or the traditional courts, will not abide by the courts that is being given in the constitutional or national laws. So now I will also mention about land ownership. When we talk of land ownership and resource management issues, we do have communal land ownership versus development projects. So many indigenous groups follow communal land ownership. That is, let me cite again example of the Khasis, the Nagas, the Mizos, the Garos. So this creates challenges when government or private industries seek land for let's say infrastructure, for leading to displacement and protest, or for any kind of emergence that they want. So they will just take communal land. So there is always been a conflict out there. So when we talk about the conflict over land between tribes, customary laws often define tribal boundaries, but overlapping claims lead to intertribal disputes. Example, I'll just give you an example. Assam, Nagaland, Meghalaya, Assam border tensions. We do have these Indo-Bangla, border tensions. We do have all these conflicts over land between, one community with the other, one state with the other. So the third point I would like to say also the political and administrative challenges. So autonomous district council, the ADCs and state laws. Under the sixth schedule, ADCs laws differ from state laws, causing administrative complications. So I will just cite again an example of Meghalaya. We do have traditional institutions like Dorbar, Shillong, Doloi, and Aimship. These have got legal powers but often clash with the state government. Why? Because it's not the same. Somewhere, somehow, there is a difference. So the challenges in the uniform policy implementation, we find that welfare schemes and laws, example like Panchayati Raj, Forest Rights Acts, sometimes fail in tribal areas due to resistance from customary bodies. So in many for the Khasis, we do not have Panchayati. We believe that we have got our own traditional Dorbar, or our traditional institution that we have to follow. So when we talk again about the modernization versus customary law, we do have the changing social norms. Urbanization and education are challenging traditional beliefs, especially among the younger generation. This is it's glaring when we talk, especially the youth of the urban city of our northeastern state. So, example, I could say youth in Nagaland and Mizoram are questioning strict customary marriages, divorce, and property laws that limit their rights. So, but now we do have also codification issues. So many customary laws remain unwritten, making interpretation subjective and prone to manipulation by elites. Why I'm saying this? Because once our customary laws are not codified, there should be, I would say not should be, there could be, misinterpretation of the law, misinterpretation of few cases, and there are also manipulation one way or the other. So the loser will be the tribal people, the ones who are really very simple and who could not fight for the rights also. So now let me talk about the impact on women's rights. When we talk about the inheritance and property rights, in many tribes, Naga, Garos, Khasis, women inherit land through matrilineal or patrilineal systems, but often do not have decision-making powers. Women are often excluded from village council and political leadership, limiting their voice in governance. And especially, when we talk about the case of the Jaintias, the Garos, or even women have got inherited lands, have got ancestral property because we belong to. But in fact, it has been governed by patriarchal norms, where the maternal uncle is the final, will give the final decision for every matters of the clan, whether it's for the ancestral property or it's for any clan matters. So when we talk about polity again, women are often excluded from village councils or from political leadership because, especially in our Khasis, what they say, like a woman cannot participate in politics. And there's one saying in Khasi, it's like it goes like this: "Ladakan I ka yarkan te," "Ladakan I ka yarkan te, kaparthai kan sawai," which means like if a hen begins to crow, then the world will come to an end. It always debar women, to take part in politics, and it is really, really intriguing these days because when we talk about women, we know that women are also equivalent with men in many like competition between men and women can happen in all spheres of life. So we are also justice denial. Traditional justice systems sometimes fail to protect women from domestic violence, as customary laws prioritize reconciliation over punishment. Suppose now there is a domestic violence between a husband and a wife or between any family members, then we would say always, okay, forgive one another. We are a family, and this let's not go to the court. We always want to prioritize reconciliation, and this is over punishment. That means the perpetrators, they do not get punishment because of the traditional justice, and they get the way to go. So the material tribes of Meghalaya, as I've already mentioned a number of times, primarily the Khasi, Jaintia, and Garo communities, they have their own unique customary laws that govern inheritance, family structure, land ownership. While these laws have preserved indigenous identity, of course they have preserved, and the cultural heritage. They also prevent, and of course, I would say they present challenges, particularly in women's decision-making rights and governance structures. And we do, as I mentioned, the legal conflicts with the state and national laws. So when we talk about the customary laws in the matrilineal tribes, we are talking about the property that is being inherited by the youngest daughter. Whereas, when we talk about this, it's very ridiculous. I myself being a Khasi, I know that we practice the matrilineal system, and that matrilineal system, it seems to happen like, we get only the lineage to the mother. Like my surname, Dkhar, belongs to my mother, neither to my father nor to my husband. Except in the war area, the slopes of Sora, so they have the inheritance rights. But even if women have that inheritance, um, uh, uh, the legacy of having the inheritance, the ancestral property. But maternal uncles often manage family wealth and give a decision on matters of all these ancestral properties. And the youngest daughter, it's just like a custodian to look after the property with so much of responsibility that land and property cannot be sold without the consent of the clan or the maternal uncles, as they are considered as the counselors of the clan. So when we come again to the marriage and family law, the children take the mother's surname, and the maternal uncles, not the fathers, have important roles in child rearing and decision making. So role of traditional institution, then we understand that governance in villages is handled by the Dorbarshnam, like the Khasi and Jaintia, and the Nokma in the case of Garo. So women are generally excluded from decision making in this council despite being property holders. But then we understand that there are a number of key challenges in dealing with these customary laws. So now, there is something like we call women's rights versus material structures. The norms are being constructed. It could, be reformed again. Despite inheritance rights, Khasi Giantess and Garo, women lack decision-making authority over family, like maternal uncles and eldest brothers control important decisions regarding, land usage, marriage, rituals of the clan, and housewarming, and even for naming ceremony and so on and so forth. So in political bodies like the Dorbarshnang, the Saintship, the Chieftainship, and the autonomous district councils, women are not allowed to hold leadership roles, though they are not allowed in these days. They try to contest, and now we could see about three. I think they have just won the no four, the ADC election that has just happened. The result was just declared on the 21st of this month. So we do have also, movement, the movement of the men's right group, I would say, the patrimonial reforms called Kasam Khongrum Paithamai, arguing that why matrilineal laws disempowering men. However, many Khasi and Jaintia women countered that men still dominate decision making despite the matrilineal system. So why the hell the men's group are fighting for the rights for patrimonial reforms? So before I would end, I would say that legal conflicts with Indian laws, we can give a number of examples, but then now if we want to talk more about empowering women in governance, I would say that movements like the Khasi welfare Khasi Women Welfare Association, KWWA, advocate for women's representation in Dorbarshnang and district councils. Now they are very keen to have the same right, like if men could have a say and they could voice in the district councils, or in any Dorbar or any traditional councils. So women also should have the chance. So some villages now allow women to participate in public meetings, though leadership roles remain restricted. So legal reforms also and codifications of customary laws. The Meghalaya High Court has intervened in several cases, ensuring that the customary laws do not violate constitutional rights. So the state government has begun documenting Khasi, Jaintia, and Garo laws, aiming for legal clarity while respecting traditions also. So the balancing tradition and modernization, there is a growing debate among the youth about whether the matrimonial system should evolve to give both men and women equal inheritance rights. So some families now practice equal division of property, moving away from the Khando system, like me, the youngest daughter. So I would say that the matrilineal tribes of Meghalaya continue to navigate the complexities of customary laws in a modern legal framework, while the women have strong inheritance rights. Their exclusion from governance and land decision remained still a key issue. So the challenge is to preserve cultural identity while ensuring gender equality and legal clarity. So the possible solutions and way forward, harmonization of customary and national laws. We have to ensure customary laws align with constitutional essence. So documentation and codification also, creating written records of customary laws to avoid misuse and ensure legal discriminatory inheritance and leadership laws while respecting cultural traditions. So inclusion of tribal voices in policy making by strengthening consultation mechanism between governments and tribal councils. So the shift in the political discourse, we have seen that the eco-political shift in Northeast India reflects a growing awareness of sustainable development and indigenous rights. So political parties and local governments bodies are increasingly integrating traditional ecological knowledge into policy making. So movements such as the demand for community land rights, legal recognition of traditional councils and ecotourism initiatives emphasize this paradigm shift. So, moreover, the role of digital media is, you know, of course, the role of digital media in amplifying indigenous voices has strengthening grassroots movements, fostering political landscape that prioritize cultural and environmental sustainability. So I would say that folklore, culture, ecopolitics are not isolated domains in interconnectedness uh, that forces and shaped Northeast India's evolving political dynamics. So as traditional knowledge system gain recognition in governance, the region is witnessing a paradigm shift towards a model that values indigenous heritage and ecological balance. So the transformation of that reflects a broader global trend where cultural and environmental sustainability become integral in political discourse, positioning Northeast India as a crucial case study in the intersection of folklore, identity, and eco-politics. So by saying this, I would say that research scholars, since this is a forum where research scholars can delve deeply, especially in the tribal areas of Northeast India, especially scholars from the mainland India. Uh, this is really very, very important because though we have a very strong customary laws, though we do have very strong languages in the Northeast with diverse culture and heritage, but still then there are a number of challenges that we have seen the paradigm shift from the the old tradition to the modernity. So I think with this, I will just say, okay, thank you for patient listening. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am, for your absolutely enlightening talk on folklore, culture, and eco-politics in the Northeast. Basically, talking about the paradigm shift in the region's political dynamics. And you actually made the talk very enlightening with your varied examples of the sacred grooves, and you were talking about the customary laws and the entire relationship between customary laws, economic shifts, and political dynamics in the Northeast, and how it is, basically reflecting it's a whole region at the crossroads of traditions and modernity. So it was very interesting, basically, ma'am, when you were talking about the customary laws and how they actually continue to play a very vital role in safeguarding their interest, and they're providing a foundation for both the cultural preservation and the economic stability. But however, with the customary laws, ma'am, you made these very interesting examples of the Khasi society, where you were talking about, how women are provided with economic independence and cultural authority. Despite that, we have the patrilineal customs which still limit, women's access to land and inheritance. So, ma'am, it was an absolutely enlightening talk, and thank you so much, ma'am. And with that, I would like to invite our second speaker, the Professor Giribabu. Professor Giribabu is the head of the Economics Department, Central University of Mizoram. Sir will be talking on Viksit Bharat at the rate 2047 through entrepreneurship, development and gender issues with special reference to the Northeast region. So over to you, sir. Sir, and I request, please, if you could stick to your stipulated time of 20 to 25 minutes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, you are.
Yes, good evening to all, respected chair as well as co-chair, fellow speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen. Myself, Professor Giribabu, you can select. So today we are going to talk about the Viksit Bharat at the rate of 2047 through entrepreneurship. How we can select not only Viksit Bharat, how economic development is taken to towards Viksit Bharat through entrepreneurship development. The other topic mainly gender issue. So I am not the correct person. I think maybe there are many madam fellows are there. I think they can speak more. So I think everyone knows. I think the scholars as well as other faculty members also knows about that. The government of India giving much importance about the Viksit Bharat by 2047. I think now the India wants to be a highly developed country. Maybe through I think getting the highest GDP, or you can like 100 years of independence. The vision mainly comes like that, growing the economic growth, the social progress, environmental sustainability, the good governance. There are many initiatives that taken place. The last budget, even the previous budget also, they given much importance about how the Viksit Bharat is going to achieve. So based on that, I think nowadays you can select the government of India also not giving much importance about the employment conditions. So through the economic, mainly you can select the government of India is giving telling, particularly you can select the government of India is telling the government having no business to do business. Mainly the present generation, mainly the people, the students, the scholars. So after completing my master's, after completing my PhD, What is my goal? What is my aim? What is my target? So in this condition, the government of India giving much importance about entrepreneurship. So nowadays, I think you can say 21st century. Now recently we celebrated the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsavam, or you can say the many other programs are initiated, G20 presidencies also. Nowadays, so my attention as an economist, I think you can say how the entrepreneurship is going to promote or develop the economic development or Viksit Bharat conditions. So based on that here, mainly can like Northeast region. I think Madam, you can say like the Alpana, she already informed about the Northeast region, how states as well as the resources what we have. So is it possible to make the full screen? Why is not coming?
Yes, sir.
Full screen is not coming, I think.
No problem, sir. Please continue.
No, slide is not moving.
Yes, sir.
So as all you know, I think you can select the Northeast region having almost 8 states. I think like 7 sisters, 1 brother, like Madam told. So having the international border for all, at least one of the 5 nations. So he also widely recognized one of the most diverse region Asia with rich, you can say tapestry of ethnical and language diversity. You can say like the mainly based on that, I think So any chance to get, I think you can see here. Because always possible, I think it's not moving.
No issue, sir. Please continue, sir.
No, the screen is not moving.
Yes, sir. Your screen is not moving, sir, but no problem. You can continue without PPT, sir.
Okay.
So maybe you could click on individual slides. It would help.
No, it's not coming.
So maybe closing once and again.
Yeah, I think it's not moving anyhow, no problem. So based on that, I think you can select here the Northeast region, particularly where you can select all the 8 states. We have very good resources, particularly you can select the region has holding significant stake of the country's activist policy. Also, I think everyone knows about that, how the economy is going to take into consideration, particularly the border review, border trades also. So with the abundant natural resources, human resources, as well as the potential for agriculture, horticulture, the region is rapidly emerging as a hub for sustainable manufacturing as well as service industries. I think if you see, for example, the way the Northeast region having the very abundant resources, but in entire regions, not only one state, not only. So where I was there, Nagaland University for 14 years. So there also you can find the huge number of the entrepreneurs are coming up towards particularly. So as an economist, I think you can slide the Schumpeter given some approaches of entrepreneurship. In case we want to achieve the Viksit Bharat by 2047, there are some 3 dimensions, particularly as per the Schumpeter given. The one is the individual personality traits. So the coming generation, in case, for example, if anyone wants to take entrepreneurship, development or entrepreneurs, so there are 3 approaches, the 3 dimensions, or you can slide the how the individual personality traits is going to help them. Mainly, you can select where you're going to use the resources. The one is the need to achieve. So mainly the motivation, particularly the people those who wants to come forward to take the entrepreneurship. Mainly the need to achieve is one of the main important traits. The desire for independence. Nowadays, you can select everyone wants to be independent. That is another important condition, how the individual is going to take into consideration. the perseverance, the determination, mainly kind of like how the people is going to determine. Particularly, these are the major approaches, the major characteristics. But as for the how the people will take into consideration for entrepreneurship, conviction, self-confidence, ability to learn, the tenacity in the face of the failure and frustrations, the ability to achieve the success by the breaking with the old pattern of behavior. These are the mainly the individual, each and every entrepreneur, each and every, you can say the one who wants to be entrepreneurs, this has to take into considerations. Not only for that, I think, for example, if you want to achieve the Viksit Bharat, again, there are facilitating the factors and the environment condition. Mainly, what are the factors available? Northeast region, we have very good infrastructure facilities like road connectivity as well as rail connectivity, or almost 17 airports allow the regions. So based on that, the government policies, mainly the government also giving the tax, subsidies, subsidized, you can say tax rebates also they're giving. And there are many other, but I think like Alpana madam also telling, yesterday there was a meeting, many ministers came and discussing about that. So that is the government policy is encouraging. So mainly the people, I think nowadays, I think recently the MSME budget, or the last budget also, the government of India given. So if anyone wants to take the, you can say like loans for Mudra loan or any, MSME loans, they increase from 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs also. So based on that, the government policies are attractive for the one who wants to be, entrepreneurs. The cultural and social norms, financial support also given by the government of India. The commercial and professional infrastructure we have, there is no crunch of, the physical infrastructure, financial infrastructure, institution infrastructure. There are many, you can say developments taking place. Access to the physical infrastructure, education, training. I think you can say there are many universities. I think almost 79 universities are existing in Northeast region. Along with that, mainly can slide almost 1,100 colleges, 1,100, I think 1,001 colleges we have in Northeast region, and almost 30. I think I'll just let you know the number of colleges also. I think mainly can like where we have NIT, we have IIT, we have IIMs, we have 79 universities. Out of 79, 10 central university we have, and 1,001 colleges. 96,400, I think 896 schools are there, and almost you can slide the IITs. So almost all the states having the NITs. So in this condition, mainly can slide the how the government support, particularly the facilitating the factors and environment, and research and development institutions we have. The competitiveness is there, networking is there. So these are the facilitating the factors what we have in Northeast region to promote the entrepreneurship development. Similarly, the entrepreneurial process, the identification of the data, mainly kind of like how we are going to start, how we are going to initiate, the validation, access to and organization of resources, negotiations, and how we are going to start and how we are going to survive. These all things, I think you can slide the approaches of entrepreneurship what given by the Schumpeter models. So in this condition, the young generation mainly you can slide in India and this Northeast regions, if they want to set up, they want to establish, they want to initiate any entrepreneur or enterprises, I think there is no crunch of resources. Mainly can like the where I can like agriculture sustainability, mainly agriculture economics, particularly can like if you see the resources where you have the almost 8,800 metric tons of production we're producing. We have variety of horticulture crops, medicinal plants, aromatic crops, spices, fruits, vegetables. And in case if you want to set up, there are many opportunities for agro-processing industries. Similarly, farm machinery industries. Similarly, you can say supply chain management industries. So basis of that, either if you want to take agriculture, if you want to take the MSME, if you want to take the industrial sector, if you want to take IT, if you want to take, the physical connectivity, or you have, so you can select the ample supply of skilled manpower. Mainly you can select the skilled manpower we have. So in base of that, mainly you can select the well-developed finance systems. We have almost 21 banks. Now the 12 public sector banks, 21 private sector banks, 31 cooperative banks, and almost 7 RRB except Sikkim. There are remaining all states, they have their own RRBs. And along with that, there are IFCA, IDBI, NABARD, SIDBI, IDBI, TFCI. There are many other banks also available, particularly you can select here, the Northeast region. So based on that here mainly, along with that, I think it's a large and technical sophisticated consumer market where we have almost the total I think it is 45.7 millions. As of 2011 census, I think 21 census is still not yet come. So almost as per 2011 census, 45.7 million population we have. Almost you can say like 5.7 lakhs per capita GSDP. Now as per the current price, the 5.75 lakhs crores of GSDP, as well as the 2,11,296 per capita average. You just imagine, I think highest and compared to the national average, Northeast region having the highest per capita income, mainly 2,11,296 rupees per annum. Mainly you can select here where the Sikkim is the highest. I think you can select almost more than 5 lakhs. And Manipur is the lowest. I think it's 1,11,000 rupees the per capita incomes. So growing infrastructure, rapidly developing infrastructure, including new industrial parks, technological parks, the suitable business environment like favorable business climate with the low the crime rate when compared to other places, the suitable political environment and supporting government policies. And consumer market is another important. Mainly you can select the particularly where you can select almost 45.7 million populations taking place. Though you can select the density of population is low when compared to other part of India. But even though the consumer market here, you can say when there is a cultural diversity or ethnical diversity, there is there are many people actually here the consumer behavior is very high. So in this condition, these are the major action you can say like the encouraging or motivating the factors, particularly the one who wants to come forward to take entrepreneurships. Based on that, even we have the entrepreneurs, this entrepreneur skill developments, IITs are there, ITIs are there, NITs are there. The huge number of skilled manpower, reskilling, upskilling the infrastructure we have. So basis of that here mainly the main motive, particularly you can say like in the process of Viksit Bharat to get the developed country, our northeastern regions, mainly you can say like the northeast region where we have the mainly you can say like 17 airports, particularly the almost 5 countries borders we have, highest to international border we have for exporting or getting the raw material. These all things I think mainly you can select the how the entrepreneurship is going to be one of the main source, or you can select the instruments, or you can select the main driver of growth and development in the northeast regions. So in this process of that, I think you can select the government also giving a lot of importance, particularly in the handloom sector, handicraft sector. And the other important area where you can give the more focus on tourism, particularly the each and every. I think I have many pictures also in that, diagrams in that slides. So where in agriculture as well as the handlooms also, but unfortunately it's not moving. But what my intention or what my perception, particularly observing almost all the states, I think visited all the states except Arunachal. So there is a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of endowment sources. Mainly you can slide mainly the rich endowments are rich, they can slide the resources we have. So in this condition, mainly no need to depends on the government employment, no need to depends on someone who they're going to provide the employment. So mainly in case we want to promote, we want to develop, particularly if we say, for example, in the development or Viksit Bharat condition or economic development, if you want to take the everyone, I think mainly the one who is upgrade, means the learning scholars or students, there is a time to rethink. Mainly, can like particularly when talking about the Viksit Bharat, when talking about economic development through entrepreneurship, mainly they had to rethink to promote our regions. Whatever we have the resources, there is no crunch of no resources. I think we have to explore it as well as we have to exploit the resources to get, I think you can select more development or to increase the sustainable livelihood of the Northeast region populations. So based on the each and every state having the abundant resources, there is no doubt at all. For growing, I think you can select for growing them. The only thing is to make an effective mechanism, particularly you can select to bring the initiative or implementing the programs or policies, whatever the government support is taking place. Based on that, I think you can say Northeast region, or I think maybe in future, but particularly though we have the per capita income high as well as the GSDP, some states, I think you can select, now Mizoram state, this all GSDP, I think they have the very good. Maybe some states are still we are lagging when compared to national average. But even though, but there is no any problem of getting the resources. So in that condition, mainly it's like how they're going to take into consideration, how we're going to initiate the policy mechanism, how we're going to exploit or explore the resources, how we're going to utilize whatever the resources we have. So basis of that, I think the skill labors, we don't have any problem of skill labor. We have very good infrastructure. We have very good human resources. We have very good, connectivity. We have very good, destination, tourist destination, whatever you can say, the export destination also. So in that condition, mainly you can say the young population, mainly that is also an important one. The Northeast region also almost 65 to 70% of the population belongs to young population. So with the aspiration, they can promote the state up, they can promote the regions to bring the country or to bring the region, one of the highly advanced region among the remaining regions. When coming to the gender dimension, the gender issues, I think mainly you can like, as per my perception, where I did some research work in Nagaland also, as well as Mizoram also, but I'm not having any much differences, particularly when compared to India, when compared to the rest of the region, rest of the country. Here, I think somewhat better. I think you can say the women empowerment, the social empowerment, or political, social empowerment, or economic empowerment, or cultural empowerment, and except you can say the political empowerment. So comparing with, for example, there are many women organizations out there. I think maybe though they have the customary laws in each and every state. But my perception mainly can say what my observation, collecting the information about the women's perception or women's opinions in the decision-making process or moving outside, better mobility of the people. And so literacy level, they are very much higher than national average. Work participation rate, they are very much higher than national average. And similarly, you can select the gender sex ratio, except Arunachal Pradesh. I think you can select Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, and Sikkim. Remaining all, I think they're having the better sex ratio when compared to national average. Even female work participation rate also, Assam, Manipur, Tripura. So except these three, I think remaining all 5 states, I think they have the better female work participation rate. And highest literacy rate except Arunachal Pradesh. Similarly, you can select everywhere, particularly Khasis or Garos or Karbi or women associations, mainly the Naga mothers associations. They are very much strong about. See, actually, if you see the decision-making process, they are doing much better, except the political representations. I think maybe if you see the assemblies also, there are single digits also. Sometimes Nagaland, Mizoram, 0 digits, 0 number of women representatives. Maybe Assam a little more, maybe single digit or double digit. I think maybe 10 numbers are there. So, but remaining part, when compared to, even I am from Andhra Pradesh, when compared to my state, here the social empowerment is very good. Actually, you can select the pictures also I taken when I did the national survey, mainly you can select national rural mission. I taken some photos also how they are economically empowering, socially empowering. So in this condition, I think I'm not seeing the much discrimination, much you can like when talking about the India where you can like the subject to several humiliations, harassments, ill treatments, everything are there. But here I'm not much. I didn't see much, this type of discrimination, this type of harassment. The women's also having the independence. The women's also having the, you can say the freedom to speak, the freedom to express, freedom to, you can say, move out. So this, I think, what my observation is empirical. I think you can say particularly, maybe theoretically or practical experiences, maybe madam knows much when compared to me. So this is, I think, gender dimension mainly can like where the equal priority given to the both men and women. Maybe some incidents, maybe some tribal areas or interior places, particularly like the Mysing tribe, or you can say the other, the Bodo, this Karbi, this type of, there some discrimination is there. Even Nagaland also there is one eastern part of Nagaland. There are some discrimination is there. But when compared to the rest of the region, rest of the other states, Northeast region, to my observation, you can see here maybe Rosemary Madam, though he was not today. She knows, but because he was the even my colleague earlier in Nagaland University. So this, I think, it's like in case if you want to achieve, if you want to get the Viksit Bharat or the highly advanced country nation status, developed nations, I think each and every one has to contribute. Each and every, you can slide the contribution has to be needed. So based on that, I think since it's a scholars forum, tomorrow, I think the future will be yours. Mainly, it's like how we are going to take into consideration, how we are going to take the decisions, how we are going to initiate, how we are going to you can like the take up the you can like the country in your hands only. So based on that, so mainly the government already I told the government I don't think so they're going to provide much employment opportunities for growing population. Now we are talking about almost 1.42 crores. So I don't think so much. They based on that. No, the best alternative is we have to start our own startups and stand-ups. Mainly, for example, nowadays startup everywhere startups are coming. Even you can slide the Northeast region also almost more than 867 startups are initiated. Assam is predominantly high when compared to the Tripura also is good enough significant number. Maybe in Mizoram to only 8 Mizoram as well as Sikkim to only 8 startups are there. So, but we are always encouraging, even the students also we're encouraging mainly. So, no need to depends on, I have to get only government job. So, in that process, I think each and every one, I think they have to contribute because we have to develop the belongingness, mainly Northeast regions. We have to develop the belongingness. No need to think about, I have to think about myself. So, this is our region, this is our you can select nation based on that. Whether you want to be a third largest economy, whether you want to be a highly advanced country, I think everyone has to contribute. Everyone has to initiate. I think that innovative, you can select good policies, particularly for promoting our nation as well as our region. With this, I think I'll thank you for giving this opportunity. But sorry for my slides are not working. I think there are many good photos also I put. Thank you so much once again, please.
Thank you so much, Professor Giribabu. This was a very interesting talk, sir. And basically, to achieve the vision of Viksit Bharat by 2024, entrepreneurship development is a key. And Northeast India actually holds a tremendous potential in this regard. So your talk was basically addressing, challenges such as infrastructural gaps or limited resources to finance and skill development, and a lot of focus on the sectorial development. The region could actually emerge as an entrepreneurial hub. And I would like to exactly take away your point where you say, you're mentioning about the point of belongingness. So I think that actually goes a very long way in the whole process of integration. Simultaneously, sir, when we talk about the government's role in policies or in support system and market access, it is actually also very crucial in this transformation. Moreover, whatever we talk about, the promotion of, if you could say, the transformation of the society could actually be a lot upon, so when we're talking about your whole idea of the gender issue when you were talking and how women in this area are actually much better than as we have women in mainland India. However, despite that, I feel promotion of inclusive entrepreneurship with the focus on empowering women will ensure a kind of an equitable economic growth and would contribute to a larger growth of the national development. So thank you so much, sir. Your talk was absolutely enlightening. And we missed having your slides. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would like to invite our third speaker, Dr. Shaita Barua. Dr. Barua is
Hello, Swati ma'am. I think there are some network issue. So, with the permission of the chair, I would like to invite to Dr. Saista Barua madam. Assistant Professor, Department of Political Science, Women's University, Assam. Please, ma'am, over to you. Dr. Sachdeva, madam. Dr. Sachdeva, ma'am, can you listen?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Please.
Namaskar.
Please.
Yes, Namaskar. Very good evening to our chairperson, Professor Alpana Borgohain, madam, to today's co-chairperson, Professor Swati Sachdeva, madam, our keynote speaker today, Professor Rosemary, all the esteemed speakers of today's program and today's highlight, and that are the students, the research scholars of various universities across the country. I would first like to say a thank you to Mr. Vikash Kumar, who has gladly, who has been very kind enough to connect with me and gave me this platform, this opportunity to connect to very young minds. Thank you, Mr. Vikash. So, starting with my idea, and that is what I would be talking about women and identity in Northeast India. So, we all know, though I do not have a PPT, just sharing my thoughts. So, we all have our identities, right? We are all different in many ways, and we all have multiple identities. Now, the idea of identity is quite a complicated and a vexed phenomena, I would say. So we all keep grappling with our identity. As I said, we have multiple identities, and continuously we are grappling with, sometimes we are grappling, sometimes we are very confident of our identity, sometimes we want to change our identities at times over a period of time as we go ahead in our lives. Sometimes we are demoning it, or sometimes we try to cultivate it. So there is basically a kind of a continuous kind of a relationship as an individual and an identity that we want to identify with that goes on. So in that way, there is a very strong interrelationship, and it's a continuous process over our lives, throughout our life. Now, the fact that when we talk of identity, it's basically about, identities. They are either they keep us together, or they break us, or they separate us, depending how we want to theorize them and how we want to practice the politics of difference. I here would not. So when I say difference, as in my subsequent couple of minutes, I would like to tell you what difference I am talking about. Continuous process, and we are. Can you just give me a minute? So it's a continuous process, and we are, in a way, we are struggling with it and dealing with that. Now, as women, we have a very common place and a common understanding of women on the basis of sex and biology, that we have a particular identity. So again, this is absolutely, by now we know there is enough research to show us that, the idea of sex is not again a homogeneous term, nor is gender. So as Madam Alpana Madam was, saying, it was, talking about it. So the binaries are not, there are multiple ways of understanding it right now. But basically, the starting point is always our sex and biology, which gets translated into gender. Now, there also has been enough literature which shows that women either they accept their identity on the basis of this, or they outplay it. So, and both has its own consequences. If I accept the identity, that has a consequence of its own, and if we outplay it, there is another consequences of it. Of course, depending on how we understand them. so far as feminist theories concerned, they have been really very stressful on this idea of identity. Of course, as like all the strands of feminism, they are divided. But yes, there is an emphasis on understanding the multiple layers of it of late. It's not very recent, but of course, by now we all know that. The focal point of my lecture here would be, as a woman from Northeast India, we usually understand women, if we understand at all women to be us as a social group, yes, we are, but we now have surpassed that, acceded to a certain kind of understanding where we are no more can be considered, or we should in some way be seen only women as a social group in the context of Northeast India. So basically what happens is that when we talk of the as an insider, or as from somebody who's from Northeast India, the general understanding is we see it as a northeastern part of India. So there is a very general understanding of the region. We have a very definite understanding of the region and its people. But as we are now much more connected to the so-called mainstream, to the so-called mainland, now things have changed of late. बहुत कुछ बदल गया है, or now people have much more access to knowledge, information of Northeast India, its people, its, considering that we are a big region with different cultures, traditions, our different rituals, our number of tribes. So we have the entire sphere, the social, economic, political, the number of tribes, everything. It's full of diversity. So we cannot be understood, or I would rather put it in this way, that it is good, or it will be very preferable for research scholars, or anybody for that matter, to understand Northeast Asia not as one homogeneous idea in every respect. Let it be even in terms of region, I would say, to some extent. Now, my focal point of the lecture is, when we consider from the point of view of identity of women in Northeast India, there are certain intersections, and these intersections are quite many, and they are quite in a crisscross manner, I would say. So gender is intersected with number of aspects in Northeast India, like whether it is, if we pull on with ideas like colonialism, if we pull on with ideas like, of course, ethnicity, caste, differences in terms of tribal identities, or in many aspects, ethnicities, whatever, the major ideas. We are different. It is not that we are a homogeneous group. So now, if we start with this aspect of understanding women as a group, as a social group primarily, and then take a further leap and understand women in the multiple layers, like in terms of ethnicity, in terms of caste, in terms of religion, in terms of how colonialism has affected the different communities in this region, how nation building has taken place. So there are many aspects, and from this perspective, we are diverse. For example, a woman in Nagaland, for example, in a place, so like for Kohima, which is a city, it's a central area, or somebody who is in Fek district in Chizami. Chizami is a very interior place, small town hamlet in the Fek districts, and it's further up there. It's very far. It's a remote town, small town. So a woman who is in Nagaland, who is in Kohima, and how she identifies herself it will be very different from a woman in Fek district. So there are aspects which affect her. Similarly, a woman from Imphal, a woman in Imphal, how she understands her, how she identifies herself, in whichever way it may be, will be different from how a woman in Thobal, it's a small town in Manipur, will be different. So what I'm basically trying to say here is, women, anybody who is interested, who is keen to study women in Northeast India, has to take this into consideration, that women is not a homogeneous group. We are diverse. And then understand the different layers, how they understand themselves. And then only we have a holistic understanding of how women perceive themselves. As we all know that India, Northeast India has been, in particular, has been a very fertile ground for movements, whether, especially what we know as ethnic movements. Now, women, through history very well shows us that women have part of these movements in a very, very active manner. चाहे वो मणिपुर हो, चाहे वो असम हो, चाहे वो नागालैंड हो, कोई भी state ho, women have always been very, very active. They have been in the forefront of every movement. The point here is, now the so-called, of course, very debatable understanding of women as being somebody who is not in the private space, whose natural belongingness is in the private space, going out in the public. If we accept taking part in a movement to be a public activity, now how does a woman identify herself with? So I, being a Mizo woman, have always been my grandmother, my mother, and now me, if I have been understood as someone whose identity has always been in the private space, taking part in a movement which is again a public activity, it's a public in the public space as a public activity. Now, what is that? How do I identify? How do I relate to these identities of my understanding as supposedly to be of the private individual and going out in the public, whether I am going to the public as a private individual or I am going to the public as a public identity. So these are questions that we need to ask. These are questions we need to ponder upon. And as we all know, that women in Northeast India are much more mobilized. They are compared to women in the rest of the country. Here, these questions remains very pertinent. Any kind of research that we do has to be pinged. It has to be underpinned on the conceptual issue of how we navigate our identities. When I say navigate my identities, I primarily mean to understand the identity as an individual, the atomistic individual, that Shaista Borua being an atomistic individual. And when I want to identify, if I want to identify myself as a part of a social group, as one of the elements of social group, how do I understand myself? So how do I navigate through it? And secondly, what relationship brings to us as a woman, as a part of a group, as a group identity, and as an atomistic individual, how do I understand my identity? Now, we have very well seen that the multiple identities that women have, in Northeast India, they are quite sort of every identity for that matter, I guess, they are quite flexible, I would say. Easier way to make everybody understand. It's much more flexible. In flexible, I would mean to say, mean that how, because there are so many factors that play in a life of a woman that it is difficult for a woman to stick to one identity at a time, probably, So for that matter, generally in a person's life. But for a woman, these identities, which seem to be very flexible, also often create a crisis, and that crisis is something which we hardly address. I maybe, in my younger, when I was in college or when I was doing my masters, में ये हो सकता है कि I identified myself as a student more, or probably उस time ये हो सकता है कि I identified myself as more as on the basis of my caste or maybe on the religion, कुछ भी हो उस time, उस उम्र में. But as we grow older, probably we tend to take our identities very very seriously. तो एक औरत की जिंदगी में ये identities काफी malleable है. It's quite malleable in that way. तो ये जानना बहुत ही जरूरी है कि हमको देखना बहुत जरूरी है कि हम लोग ये आइडेंटिटीज कैसे समझ रहे हैं, पहले कैसे हम समझ रहे हैं, और इन एवरी फेज ऑफ आवर लाइफ, और उसको हम समझने के बाद हम लोग थियोराइज कैसे कर रहे हैं, उसके बाद हम लोग इसको हाउ डू वी यूज ऑफ इम्प्लीमेंटेड इन द सोसाइटी. तभी हमको एक we will have an understanding that what identities are all about. As Madam or our speakers have said, that it's Northeast being in a conflict, riddled with conflicts, and with women have been torn in this idea of conflict and peacemaking, stabilizing lives, and it is not about. Please understand that it is not a woman. It is not about stabilizing the life of her own. As a member of a community here, for a woman, she is not only stabilizing her life, she is stabilizing the life of the community as well. Now, how the community perceives her identity is something also that we need to think about. हमारा जो community है वो हमको देख कैसे रहा है और मैं कैसे community को देख रही हूँ. That understanding has to be there if we are to stick to our the importance of identity that we are all talking about. तो यहाँ ये बहुत जरूरी है कि वो समझना कि these are, and the spheres are overlapping spheres. It's very difficult to compartmentalize these spheres in the life of a woman. So if that is so, if we can agree to this, these interlapping spheres have their own dynamics, and these dynamics are very very subjective. And उस हिसाब से देखा जाए तो हर औरत का एक आइडेंटिटी जो है वो एक it's always there is a flux going on, and this flux is not very good for a woman, in the sense ki I'm not even saying to be rigid with our identities, but all I'm trying to say is that we need to understand. Here we are not here to find out solutions or something. Rather, we are attempting to have an understanding. How do we understand that? So therefore, I would request everyone, the research scholars especially, to when you are if you are keen to do research on women in Northeast India, it is extremely important to take the multiple layers that they adorn, the multiple layers that they live with. And unless and until we have this, we will not be able to understand women. We will not be able to understand how our identities are, how are they made and unmade. So हर रोज एक औरत के जीवन में बहुत कुछ चलता रहता है जो it makes and unmakes us. तो अगर मेरा आइडेंटिटी का बात किया जाए, so for example, if my identity, political identity is strong in certain aspects at a certain point of my life, it may not be so in the social aspect. Of course, it's quite the spheres are, somebody may say the spheres are not overlapping, somebody may say yes, depends. But for a woman, I strongly believe that these spheres are extremely overlapping. So if the spheres are overlapping, ये जानना बहुत ही जरूरी है कि ये spheres overlapping है, तो how is it, if these spheres are overlapping, how are they affecting women? How are they creating the identity of a woman? If they are not, how is it affecting the lives of a woman, or the identity of a woman? अगर हम ये जान पाए, we will have a lot of information. At least theoretically, we will have enough information to sort of information to maybe come to a point where we can say that these identities are in a constant flux, and it is not important to stick to one rigid identity, which is often termed in terms of sex or biology. That identity is something we have, but we need to go further. We have come far from it, but we need to go further. And especially for women in Northeast India, these identities are constantly changing. We are constantly changing in the context of everything that is happening around us, political, social, economic, in every sphere. Har tarah se we are, things are affecting us and we are changing our identities. But importantly, it's very, very important to how it affects us. And once we come to that understanding, probably we will be in a better position to contribute to this, to contribute to the expansion of this idea of what women and identity is all about. So this is all I wanted to say. And I also want to mention one thing, that when we, for research scholars especially, that when you do research on women in Northeast India, please keep in mind, which I said, the starting point can be, or I will be very happy if you can start with the heterogeneity idea. So it's a very, very normative idea. And if we start with heterogeneity, after a certain point, we will understand why we can start with it. It might look very difficult initially, that's with the women and these, it might be very difficult. Lekin agar hum ye मान के चले कि नहीं, heterogeneity can be the starting point. Heterogeneity can be it can be a starting point to lead us, whether we are leading towards homogeneity or whether we are leading towards heterogeneity. That's a different matter. But at least we may start with heterogeneity, because I am sure that it will lead to a lot of information, a lot of data, and also to make use of it theoretically. Then we, it will be for us in particular, women in Northeast India who are doing women's and gender studies. We are in Northeast India, and for the rest of the country, it will be quite a big contribution if we can really, if young mind starts with something with doing this. So therefore, I would like to end my lecture here. I would thank everybody here, and Vikasji, thank you once again. Thank you, Alpana ma'am. Thank you, Swati, Akshay, Sachdeva ma'am. Thank you, Madam Streamlet, for your patient hearing, and research scholars all across countries. Thank you so much, and have a good evening ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Barua. And in fact, I'll absolutely agree with you, because, understanding women's identity in Northeast India does require a normative approach. Because as you mentioned, women are heterogeneous, and we actually have to begin with the fact that it is a diverse group that actually recognizes both their empowerment, in certain cultural context, and the systemic barriers which continue to navigate. So basically, somewhere, ma'am, you were talking about the interplay between tradition, modernity, and gender norms, and actually how women, in this region define themselves and they assert their place in the socio-political sphere. I would also like to, also agree with you, ma'am, when you're talking about, how Northeast India, identity actually plays a dual role in shaping the women's life. Where, as you mentioned, it is providing empowerment, a sense of cultural pride and strength to challenge, somewhere the traditional gender norms. It is also exposing them to a lot of identity conflict, discrimination, and I would say marginalization in both the personal and the public spheres. So I think, the perception of women in Northeast India by the communities and the way they perceive themselves, it's absolutely shaped by a combination of a lot of cultural heritage, gender norms, and the social expectations. I would totally agree on this. And as you mentioned, ma'am, the identities are always in a very, they're always changing. They're absolutely fluid. So thank you so much, ma'am. It was a very refreshing, very enlightening talk. Thank you so much. I would now like to invite our last speaker for the day, Dr. Riang. Dr. Riang is Associate Professor, Department of History, Central University of Tripura. And Dr. Riang will be talking on a social cultural history of the tribes of Tripura. Dr. Riang, over to you, please.
Okay, no one audio. Good evening, citizen everyone present. In this talk, Socio-Political University on basically not this politics. Discussion on global economics and socio-political dialogue. First of all, I like to explain my to English clarification. And
Sir,
then,
your voice is not clear, sir.
so here, okay, right now, is it okay?
Yes, sir, now better.
Okay. Now, with the permission of the chair, Professor Alpana, so I like to, present my presentation. But before session, I like to request you if you can screen share my PPT.
Yes, sure, sir. So I would like to request to Manorama, please share the PPT of Dr. Lingas.
Still, I'm just clicking on the socio-political screen.
Yes, sir,
So
she's
that,
sharing, sir, she's sharing.
Just give me a moment. There's some technical issue here. I'm really sorry for the inconvenience.
You are not able to share?
I'm trying. There's just some issue here. Earlier it was. I'm just trying. Just give me a moment.
Yes, 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 yes.
Or,
Please.
or either you can try from your end, Vikasji, please, if you can, because there's some technical issue. I thought it was working, but again, I'm just trying to do it, but it's causing some, uh,
Okay.
yeah. Please try it from your end as well. I'm just trying.
if there's a technical issue, okay, I can continue. But then
Yes,
I thought,
yes, sir, please. Sir.
because I thought like if I can use the PPT, there's like a picture, it will be very clear, you're trying to understand the topic. So, there's lots of complexity to understand the tribes of Tripura, and also in trying to know about the economy or about the socio-political dynamics in Tripura. So, actually, we can think about the tribes of Tripura through the culture of the dance, but then I try to focus on one particular tribe, that is Meghalaya. And some of the reason why I have chosen one particular tribe. Now, in Tripura, there are two type of, ethnic groups. One is the Tribal, one is the people, and the other we have the non-tribal. We have the Bengali, we have got Manipur. And then in Tripura, basically there are 19 tribes along with several sub-tribes. Now, each tribe they have got their own dialect, they have got their own people, they have got their own customs, they have got their own cultural varieties. Now, among the 19 tribes, the Tripuri. Now, in Tripura, there are basically two tribes there. One is the Burma, the other is Tripura. Those tribes who like the title is Tripura. So there are the Burma and Tripura, which is Tripuri. So there is the Kamatia, there is the Novatia. Again, within Novatia, there is another subtribe known as Murasan. Although they are different. And then we have got the Maya, also known as the Brute, and then the Utkoi. We have got the
Sir, your
Sakma.
voice is
Yeah.
sir, your voice is not clear, sir.
Okay. What about now? Is it okay? Yes. Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, please, you can start the slide, I think, if it is working. Yeah.
Sir, Manorama ji, PPT is usual?
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's visible. It's visible. Yes, it's.
Okay. Yes, sir, please continue.
Please make it a full screen. Full screen. No, you make it F5. You click the F5.
No, sir. Actually, sir, I am sharing this through my mobile. So
Okay.
yes, please. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's okay. Then you please go to the next slide. I'm going to the 19th tribe.
Yes, yes.
Please go to the next. Yes, it's here. So basically, 19th tribe. Within Tripura, we have got the Daburma and the Tripura, and then the Jamatia. We also have the Nuatia, and of course within Nuatia subtype there is Murasi. Although Murasi are a little bit different from Nuatia. Then we have got the Riang, who are also known as the Bru, and then Uchoi. We have got the Chakma, we have got the Mok, the Garo, the Khasi, the Lusai, Halam. Now within Halam there are like Mosom, Kaipeng, Korbong, Koloi and Rupini. Although Koloi and Rupini they speak Kokborok, similar to Tripuri, Jomatia or the Noatia, but they're being categorized within the Halam tribe. And then we got a Kuki. Within Kuki also there are Ranglong, Rangkol and Dalong. Although all their languages are quite different from each other, but they're being categorized within Kuki. Or then we have got a Butia, Lepcha, Chaimal, Bil, Munda, Orang and Santal. To be specific, I just want to show some picture. The next slide, please. Yeah, these are the categorization of the tribe, like the Tripuri, Riang, Uchui, Noatia, along with the dresses, just to identify different tribe. The next slide. Here the Chakma, the Mok, of course the Lusai, Garu and Khasi. The next slide relates to Lepcha and Bhutia. Now, actually, Lepcha and Bhutia, they hail, from, originally from the northern frontier of India. And then, of course, like Bhutan, Sikkim, and Bengal. And, they might have come here to Tripura, for some services or for trading purposes. And then the next slide, it's on the Bil, the Munda, the Orang, and of course the Santal. Now they have been here in Tripura, since 1916, 1917. They have been recruited just, to work, on the tea garden or, on the brick clean or as a farm laborer. So, but nevertheless, they are also one of the 19 scheduled tribes of Tripura. Now, to understand the indigenous tribe, which I'm trying to focus here, first of all, the dance, the next slide. I just like to introduce, the tribe, like the Tripuri or the Jamatia, from the dance of the Gorea. Now it is performed, this Gorea has been performed, as a, festival, okay, for the harvest season. So this dance actually they worship, Lord Gorea, or what they call it in local languages, Baba Gorea. All right, and of course, this dance is being performed both by the male and the female, and this is also one of the very famous dance of both the Tripuri and the Jamatia tribe. The next tribe, that is the Lebang Bomani. This is also by the the Tripuri, and this is the Lebang Bomani. Actually, Lebang is a insect which visit the hill slope in the time of the June. So the Tripuri men, along with bamboo stick, they make a rhythmic sound, and which makes the insect to come out of the place, and then the women catch. And this Lebang Bomani basically it is a depiction or replication of the activity within the Tripuri people. Now, this is the Mamiti dance, which you can see in your slide, Mamita. This is also being performed by the Tripuri tribe. It is during the harvest season to the worship of Mailoma and Kuluma, goddess of paddy or cotton, and of course other crops. And props, of course, are being used like the bailing. It's a tray, bamboo tray, and then of course they use some other props also. The next slide, it's Tangbiti. This is being performed by the Tripura, and this is the slide by the Tripura and the Nuatia tribe. Again, this depicts a day-to-day lives of the tribal people who are mostly dependent on the jung field. Yeah, I'm just waiting. Okay, the next slide, it relates to Bizu or Bizu. This is being performed by the members of the Chakma tribe in Tripura. And then it is also being performed during the Biju festival, which refers to Chaitra Sankranti. And this member of the community, the Chakma, they bid goodbye, to the year and that this and that, and which usher in the new year. The next slide, it shows the next slide. Yeah, it shows the Sangrai dance. The Sangrai dance performed by the people of the Mok community. Sangrai, again, the last day of the month of Chaitra. And then, these people of the Mok community, they celebrate the day, through cultural program, inviting the New Year. The other folk dance, it is the High Hack. High Hack is being performed mainly by the Malsom community, which is a subtribe of the Halam community. And this High Hack is usually performed, after the next slide, basically, after the harvest of the crops. The other next slide, it is Wangala. It is very famous, also in Meghalaya. So likewise, even in Tripura, the Garo community, they perform this Wangala dance. And of course, the Chero dance, the next slide, which are really famous in Mizoram. Here also we do have some Lusai community. Basically, they reside in the Jampu Hill, and this Chero dance is also very famous, both with the male and female who participated. It is a bamboo dance, basically. So with that, that is just an introduction on the particular tribe through the dance. But the next slide, my main focus of today's discussion, or my main focus of today's presentation will be on the Riang. Now, as I have told you, regarding the complexity of the tribe, it is very important to understand, the history of Tripura, the study of Tripura's economy, the study of Tripura's socio-political dynamics, by understanding the indigenous, group of people. And here particularly, I'm taking up the history of the Riang. Because, Tripura, or the history of Tripura, Tripura is also just like Manipur, which was a princely state, and then which never come under the control of the British. So Tripura, it has got a long history of, rule by the Maharaja, or in fact the Manikya dynasty. The next slide, if you see, there are around 184 kings, till basically 1949, I should say, when Tripura merged with India. So during the time of the Maharaja, actually the Maharaja Ratnamanikya, there are different names of the Maharajas. So first of all, like Maharaja Ratnamanikya, his father Dangor Fa. Fa is a person actually among the tribal or among the Riang. Fa is the name that is being given. Not by the child's name, but by the first child's name, like somebody's father, is something like that. So Dangor Fa, that for the title that Manikya was being replaced. In earlier, that was the Fa. The next slide, it introduces about the Riang. They are the tribe, of course, belonging to the Tibeto-Burman group, and then they belong also to the Sino-Tibetan language family. Language of the Riang are known as Kaubru, and then they consider actually Bru and not the Riang to be the name of the tribe. Now there are 12 clan among the Bru community. I'll be coming to the confusion between the Riang and the Bru. Now Mosoi, Meska, Msa, Raiksa, Apeto, Wairem, Chompreng, Nokham, Tuimuyapa, Yakstam, Chorki, and Tomoyapa. These are the 12 clans of the Bru community. Now the last Kaskau is the chief of the Bru community. The last Kaskau, who was very powerful, who was also very tyrant, his name was Riang. So basically, people who are nearby to this community, they used to relate to this community not as Bru but as Riang. So ultimately, the Riang, as of now, they are known as Riang in place of Bru. Although the Bru by themselves, they still, call themselves as Bru. So actually, going back to this little bit of history of the next slide, how the name between Riang and Bru, there is lots of, misinterpretation regarding these two words. So through this, just like I have shown you in the 19th tribe, the number one tribe, the Tripuri, out there are Deborma and there are Tripura. So then, but then you will not see anywhere like they are same, but they're different actually. So likewise here also, the Riang Kaskau actually subjugated all the other clans of the Bru community who have ruled for many years, and there have been actually around 64 Kaskau or chief. So it is in the name of the Riang, it is name of the chief that the community was being known. The next slide. Now there are also different opinion regarding the original homeland or where they have migrated. Now from the perspective of just like any other northeastern state, tribe, looking at their physical features, they are considered as the Mongolian tribe. The next slide, the movement, of the Riang, it took a very, very long time, of course. It was set from the, northwestern China between, Huanghu and Yangtze-Kiang River, and then they traveled to present-day Burma, that is Han state of Burma, between Irrawaddy and Chinhuin, and then they move in successive waves from Chinhuin in two groups. The next slide, it shows like one group, moved to the present-day Barak and the Brahmaputra Valley, that is in present-day Assam. And it was said, they were the part of, group which established the Tripura kingdom. Now I'll come back to this Tripura kingdom, but let me go back to the other parts of the group where they have migrated. Now other group, they have settled, in this slide, they have settled in the Karnafuli River source area, in the north of the Maini River source in Khagrasari, Rangamati and Bandarban, that is now in Chittagong Hiltek, that is also in Bangladesh. And the Riang, or the Bru, while living at Chittagong, they are very much intact till 1587. At the same time, when they were intact, even in this princely Tripura, they have got a capital at Rangamati. Rangamati was the earlier name. Now it is known as Udaipur. That was being changed by Maharaja Uday Manikya in 1577. Now, there is a version of some of the movement from the land of Kaskau, land of, Riang, from all those present-day Chittagong to this present-day princely state during the time of Maharaja Govinda Manikya. Now, in 1660 AD, Maharaja Govinda Manik took refuge at a Riang village at Chittagong. And while at Chittagong, actually there was a pond that is being built because he had to just fled Tripura because there was a conflict with his brother. Actually, later on, again, he went back and then he took the throne of princely Tripura. Now, this is just a proof. The next slide. This is the place where, Maharaja Govinda Manik took refuge. And I have just visited this place in Chittagong, in Khagrasari. And right now, those area, it belong to, those area has been now under the category of, previous slide. That's the picture, previous slide. No, previous slide. Yeah, previous. Yes. So here is the place, where, Maharaja Govinda Manik was taking refuge. But right now there are Chakma community of Khagrasari who are in these places. So the next slide, it indicates, many of the Bru, they have left, Chittagong and they have come to princely Tripura. And then, there are around, it was said around 8 to 12 of them who have come, elders basically, who have come to the land of the Maharaja. The next slide, actually the Maharaja, they gave the Bru who have come from the land of the Kaskau, a Bandari Boko, like, okay, you have come as a refuge to my places, so you will be, settled here in Tripura. So out there, after being settled, they're being given that Bandari Boko, and then they're being settled. And to look after the welfare, now this is the Bandari Boko, that picture. Okay, so to look into the affairs of the, Riang within the princely Tripura, yes, just before that, after the basket, after the wedding of the basket, before that. Yeah, just come here and then next slide. The next slide, yeah. Now to look into the affairs of the, Riang after being resettled in princely Tripura. So, a community head was being required. So Rai was being instituted. Actually, there are around 36 Rai among the Riang Of course, Debsing Torki was the last official right in 1942-43. Now, there was also a problem in 1942-43. I'll come to that in the subsequent slide. So next slide, it is all about the social structure, about the Riang. Now, the Riang are quite peculiar. I will just say in Tripura, because looking, at their physical structure or the dressing style or regarding the inhabiting, their houses. The houses locally known as charno. They have been constructed, locally what is being available. And also, below the house, there are lots of domestic, animals like pigs, which are being, put up, and also like firewood is to be stored, as you can see in the picture. And then they're very, very, different, with any other tribes of Tripura. And then the house also doesn't have, any windows basically. And, both the veranda, both at the front or also at the back. And there is no any sort of partition within the house. And also commonly, the house is commonly being used, as a kitchen or as a storeroom or as a bedroom. And the villages are basically named, after a stream or after a rivulet or after the village set. Now the next slide, it's all about the marriage system. The marriage system also, like there is a arranged marriage, then there is a, different other system of marriage. Like earlier, the marriage system within the Riang society, within the Riang society, that was a, come to that, below this, after this. Yes. Now, marriage system, it has been perpetuated, with pouring of a sacred water, but, the marriage system here earlier, not the present day, earlier it was only the male member who has to be, given in the marriage. Of course, the female member will be in the other room. Only the, hen, woman, traditional, upper garment of the women, or what is known as the risa, used to be present where the groom used to sit. So this is also quite peculiar in terms of the marriage system. And then, of course, to look after the matches, there is a gorinda or a matchmaker to find a suitable, match. Okay, I'm just skipping. Come to the dress and ornament. The next slide. Yeah, dress and ornament. Next slide. Yes. Now, here you can see, two varieties of dresses. On the right side, you will see the traditional, dress. On the left side, it is more or less a traditional, but it's a formal traditional dress on the left-hand side. Now, in the men, they're wearing a hand-woven loincloth and shirt, of course, kutaritra, we call it in local language. The women were wearing the runai and also a wrap around hand-woven cloth from the waist, down to the knee. Then there is a risa, of course, and a rikato. All right, and then of course these women, they're very fond of the personal decoration. You will see it is only on the young women you will see the ornament adorning, with such heavy makeup or with heavy ornaments known as rambak. The next slide. This is basically to indicate what type of ornament or a dress the young women used to wear. And on the hair you will have the sangai. On the neck, you have the lokoi, you will have the sondrahar, the kanti, the nambak sanang, the tro on the hand. On the leg, there is a bengi, and wearing runai, roundbao. You have got on the waist, the tar. You have got on the hand also the tro. Okay, we have got the ankli on the neck, nambak on the ear, and wakon at the side of the upper of the nabak. So this is the basically the dress or the ornament that the young women add on. And it is very, very peculiar. It is very, very different, as I told you, like from any other tribes of Tripura. Now coming back to the cultural life, the most important, dance of the Riang, the Hosagri. And this Hosagri is usually performed on the Maiklumon, that is worship of goddess of Pedi, goddess of cotton. And then Maikluma, actually there are 4 parts of Maikluma. One is the goddess of Pedi, goddess of cotton, goddess of the new food grain, and goddess of the old food grain. So these are the, goddess, basically because the young are more or less, nature worshipper. Of course, now they have converted to either Hinduism or Christianity. But earlier, They are still a nature worshipper. So everything that they depict, whether in dance or in worship, it relates to nature. Now, Hosagri, the next slide, Hosagri basically it indicates, a night of the feast. All the villagers will be enjoying, a rice, cake wrapped with plantain leaf, and they should drink the arak, that is the locally brewed rice wine. And in Hosagri, the maiden or the lady will expose, the dance expertise and skill of various technique, indicating the zoom cultivation from, from the, regarding the cultivation till the reaping of the cultivation. The next slide, it is the dormitory. It is still prevalent among the young, where in the dormitory they discuss the different matter relating the welfare of the villages or different development of the villages. And this dormitory is also being considered as a center of socio-economic and religious life of the villages. And this dormitory are also, I think, very much prevalent, in different tribe in Manipur or even in Mizoram, even in Nagaland. Right, so this young dormitory is usually constructed is to be on the middle of a villages, and it serves as a center of socio-economic upbringing, especially the young people. Now, on the economic side, Zoom, like any other northeastern, tribe, this Zoom has been very important for the life, for the livelihood of the young. Now in Tripura, basically it is the Riang and the Tripura who basically practice this. Of course, there are other tribes also like the Chakmas, and of course there are many other tribes also, but basically the Jumia that is being referred basically to the Riang and the Tripura tribe. I'm not going to the detail about the Zoom cultivation, so let us skip to the religion. Now religion, method of worshiping the religion, of course there are goddess of water like Asaptoli, nature worshipper. So they've got a particular goddess of water, they've got a goddess of family, they've got a goddess of paddy, they've got a goddess of cotton. Of course there is a supreme god among all these goddesses, what is called and known as the supreme god or Taiktor. And there's lots of sacrifice regarding fowl or pig or even goat, which are very much a common sight while performing. You can see in the picture, the upper portion, the lower portion, there is a system of worshipping, different, nature. And also the concept of spirit and deities are very much important. And also spirit known as Phala. And it was said that they reside, in person, animal, fish, trees, or even in rivers. The next slide, it is very important with regards to this, political development. That is 1942-43, there was a young uprising. There was a major uprising that is taking place in 1942, but it is all relating to the economic policy that is being undertaken by the Maharaja of Tripura, Maharaja Birbikram Kishore Manikya. Now, there is a lot of history behind this, but I'm not going to the history because since the time of the Maharaja Isan Chandra Manikya, Maharaja appointed, Balaram Hazare as the Diwan, to entrust the management of his kingdom. And Balaram Hazare and his brother Sridham, they exploited the situation of Tripura, not basically the Riang, but of Tripura by exhaustion, because Tripura history, there are plainland Tripura and hilly Tripura. Now, plainland Tripura is a Chakla Rosnabad. Plainland Tripura is very much fertile and, of course, with the time, the Mughal Empire or, the British, they have undertaken, the whole of plainland Tripura because of the economic benefit that befalls them. But they have not taken the hilly Tripura because of the uneconomic stance of hill Tripura. But in hill Tripura, to the Maharaja, because of the revenue income from Chakla Rosnabad or plainland Tripura was not coming to him anymore. So to extract the income source, he brought some person from Bengal to collect the tax even in hilly Tripura. So they have exploited the situation, and there is lots of tribal uprising taking place since from 1860 onwards. There are different other tribal uprising, but here the focus was on 1942-43. Now, this 1942-43, as you could see in this on the below right, you could see the rate of Ghar Chukti or the house tax. The Tripuri just around 3.8 annas, the Zamati also around 3.8 annas, the Kuki 5.4, the Halam 2. But the Nuatia and the Ria, I have made in red, they are being they have to pay around 10 annas each. There is no any particular satisfactory explanation why they are being taxed, higher than any other tribes. So this was one such reason why the people of the Riang community, they participated. And in fact, the leader of the uprising, it was Ratnamani Noatia. So both of this tribe, they contributed, to the uprising. Of course, it was, it was over within 1943. Now, the Riang, protested. The next slide. The Riang protested all this discrimination regarding this economic exaction. It was because, this economic, problem, it is not only the problem with the Riang, but there is a problem because, it is a hilly region and people are basically, depending on the June cultivation, and June cultivation, it is a seasonal. So there is lots of problem during those days. And then, of course, later on, the main reason of the uprising, economic was there, but then it was also the problem within the Riang community. It was a conflict between the headship of the Riang Rai. Now, I'm just skipping this. Just skip it. You can skip this also. Yeah, coming to the status of the Riang women. Status of the Riang women. The next slide. Now, young women are not considered to be a burden actually. Now, they enjoy a very considerable measure of the equality, along with men folk. They play very important, role in socio-economic development. Now, it was even regarding the priesthood, there was a priest also among the young women. Now, they belong to a very patrilineal society, but the women of this community, they occupy a very significant position in the social structure. And, their services are being sought in almost every household matter and other daily score. And as we have been listening to the customary law, although in Tripura, the customary law is being passed only for the Zomatia tribe, and the rest of the tribe are still not yet passed, even the Riang. But even in the customary law, there is a high place, high position for the women because all the work ethics, it relates to the women. And lastly, there is a change among the Riang because it is the Riang who are being categorized as the primitive tribal group by the government of India of position 1976. So they are one of the 75 PBTG, particularly vulnerable tribal groups of Tripura. And in whole of Northeast, there are just only two PBTG. One is, I think, Maram Naga in Manipur, and the other is the Riang. So they are being categorized, I think, on the set of the pre-agricultural level of technology, extremely low level of literature. Then there is a declining or stagnant population. And in Tripura, for the development of this particular tribe, there is a separate department known as the Department of Tribal Rehabilitation and Plantation. There is the TRP and PGP group. So there is also a minister, there is also a department to look after this, and central government is looking forward since 1975, just specifically to uplift economically to this tribe. So with this few words, I just end my presentation just to be specific, to understand just a particular tribe from a particular state where we have got so many of tribe and sub tribe. So in knowing a particular tribe, I thought it will be very much helpful for different scholars. So that's why I'm just taking up this topic particularly relating to one tribe. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Dr. Riang, for this absolutely. It was a visual treat. Your presentation was an absolute visual treat, and you were talking about, how the Riang tribe of Tripura actually has a very long and complex history, which has been marked by a lot of periods of cultural flourishing or displacements and socio-political challenges. But despite that, sir, you have been able to, they maintain their cultural traditions, as you were talking about their customs of marriage, their social structures, and how they're actually traversing through the identity is absolutely commendable. So thank you so much for this. I would now give it over to the chair. Thank you so much, ma'am. Over to you, please.
I think Professor Alpana madam has left, so I request to also Professor Swati madam. Please keep your concluding remark.
Uh, in fact, sir, I've actually kind of already concluded the presentations, where I was just talking about
ma'am.
what
You
it is.
have contributed very well, ma'am. Yeah, I
Yes,
know.
sir. So I
After
would
this,
really don't have anything. Yes, sir. So in
yes,
fact, if I had to conclude it, so I would have written up more on it, sir.
yes.
So that's from my side, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Sir.
So I think if any participants have any questions, only 1-2 participants we will allow. So you can ask to the resource person. Otherwise, we will end the session because yeah. So okay, thank you so much to all of you, and once again thanks to all the resource persons, invited guests, special to our co-chair, Professor Swati Madam, who has accepted our request with short notice, and all the participants who have taken their valuable time and joined this session. So thank you so much once again. Thanks to everyone. Thanks to Professor Giribabu sir, Professor Saista ma'am, Stream ma'am, Lincoln Young sir, and Swati ma'am. Thank you so much. So with the permission of
Thank you so much, sir.
with the permission of co-chair Professor Swati
Thank,
ma'am, ma'am, if you allow, so we can end the session here.
thank you so much.
So thank you so much also, Vikash. And
Thank you so much, sir. Pleasure.
thank you, Swati.
It's been an absolute pleasure, sir.
Everybody. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
Yes.
you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you so much, Vikas, sir. Thank you so much.
Pranam, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.